It began with a routine shift in the emergency room. Nurse Emily had just started her night shift, expecting the usual influx of patients with minor ailments and injuries. However, as the clock struck midnight, strange occurrences unfurled. Patients in the far end of the ward began complaining of whispers in the darkness, voices that spoke of impending doom and whispered secrets from the beyond. Emily dismissed these claims at first, attributing them to exhaustion or medication-induced hallucinations. But as the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, permeating the sterile air of the ward. And then, patients started disappearing. Dr. Harris was renowned for his surgical skills, but he harbored a dark secret. During the dead of night, when the hospital slept, he would sneak into the operating theater, driven by an insatiable hunger for perfection. But his quest for mastery took a sinister turn when he started performing surgeries on unwilling patients, their screams muffled by the sterile walls. Rumors began to swirl about the phantom surgeon who prowled the hospital corridors, his footsteps echoing like a specter's whisper. Nurses reported seeing fleeting glimpses of him in the shadows, his eyes gleaming with a maniacal fervor. And then patients started turning up with inexplicable surgical scars, their memories wiped clean by potent sedatives. Life and death intertwined in the maternity ward, where the cries of newborns echoed alongside the whispers of those who never made it. Nurse Sarah had always felt a palpable sense of unease in the ward, a feeling that intensified after dark. But nothing could prepare her for the night when the ghostly apparitions of women in white began to materialize, cradling invisible infants in their arms. These spectral mothers seemed to be searching for something, their anguished wails reverberating through the empty corridors. Sarah tried to rationalize the sightings, attributing them to fatigue or stress. But when babies started disappearing from their cribs, leaving behind only a faint scent of lilies and despair, she knew that something malevolent lurked in the shadows. Room 666 had always been a source of dread in the hospital, whispered about in hushed tones by staff and patients alike. Nurse Mark had heard the stories of inexplicable deaths and unexplained phenomena associated with the room, but he never truly believed them until he was assigned to care for a patient admitted in a critical condition. As the night stretched on, Mark felt an oppressive weight settle upon him, a sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. Strange symbols appeared etched into the walls, glowing with an otherworldly light. And then, the patient in room 666 began to convulse, writhing in agony as if possessed by a malevolent force. Dr. Roberts was the epitome of professionalism, respected by colleagues and patients alike for his calm demeanor and surgical prowess. But beneath the facade of composure lurked a darkness that threatened to consume him. It started with subtle changes in his behavior, erratic mood swings, lapses in memory, and unexplained outbursts of violence. The hospital staff dismissed these signs as stress-induced, attributing them to the pressures of the job. But when Dr. Roberts began exhibiting symptoms of possession, speaking in tongues, exhibiting superhuman strength, and levitating off the ground, panic spread like wildfire through the hospital corridors. As the hospital descended into chaos, a disparate group of individuals found themselves drawn together by fate. Nurse Emily, Dr. Harris, Nurse Sarah, Nurse Mark, and Dr. Roberts stood on the precipice of a nightmare, facing an enemy that defied reason and logic. Together, they delved into the dark heart of the hospital, uncovering a conspiracy that spanned generations. In a climactic showdown against forces beyond their comprehension, they battled for the soul of the hospital itself. Lives were lost, sacrifices made, but in the end, they emerged victorious, banishing the malevolent entities that had plagued the hospital for so long. In the aftermath of the ordeal, the hospital stood as a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. But amidst the ruins, there was hope, a glimmer of light piercing through the darkness. And as the survivors emerged, battered but unbowed, they vowed to rebuild, to reclaim what had been lost. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined them, but the courage to confront it head-on, to stand united against the shadows that lurked in the depths of the infirmary. And though the scars would linger, a new dawn was on the horizon, promising a future free from the taint of fear and despair.